Welcome to Alumni Weekend, everyone. I wish I could be with you. My name is Pattie Speer. I was Pattie Coon back in the day when I graduated from Auburn Academy in 1971. I can't believe that it has been almost 50 years since we graduated. I know we're not that old. Um, but anyway, I certainly wish I could be with you. I have been asked to tell a story, and it is about my COVID experience, but it's really not a COVID story as much as it is it's a story of what God did in my life and what God showed me. So I'd like to share that with you. Back in August, I contracted COVID. I was somewhat sick, but I have a really good immune system, so I figured I would just fly under the radar. And I ended up in the ICU. And when I got there, I was very sick. I'd already been sick for about 10 days when that happened, but I had double viral and bacterial pneumonia along with the cytokine storm. So my systems were shutting down and my infection rate was very high. So I was very sick, and that went on for several days. I arrived in the ICU on September the 4th. And sometimes I would seem to be getting better, and other days not so much. On September the 11th, which is a significant day in our country anyway, I was losing the battle. And I was on 100% oxygen, but I couldn't breathe. And so the doctors, as they were checking on me, they came in and they said, it is time to go on the ventilator. Now, one of the things when I went to the ER, I did not know that I was going to be going into the hospital, so I did not prepare for the hospital, except that I did take my phone and my charger because I figured I would be in the ER for a long time, or for at least for a good part of a day. So thankfully I had that, and I had been Googling, look, good old Dr. Google, but I had been Googling about the ventilator and what the pros and cons of it. And what I had learned was that yes, it is very helpful to help you to breathe, but the problem with the ventilator is that it can make infection worse. Well, my infection had doubled since I had gotten to the hospital. My numbers had doubled, and they were not getting a good handle on my infection. And so for some reason, I saw the ventilator as a death sentence for me. I just did not see it as saving my life. And so I started to cry. I felt very sad about that. They said they were going to contact my family and they would be putting me on the ventilator. And so I'm laying there, and as they're talking about this, I'm losing the battle. I am not able to breathe. And so I didn't think I would die this soon. And I will tell you, I'm not one bit afraid to die. I'm not going to heaven, when we are in heaven, we see through a glass darkly here on this earth. So what we think is wonderful on this earth, it says, eye has not seen nor even entered into the imagination of man what we are going to experience in heaven. So I know that our God is an awesome God, and heaven this is just if we think this world is all there is, then that's really sad, because we have eternity, and I really look forward to that. Dying, so not afraid to die, dying, not a fan. It's very terrifying, and I couldn't breathe, and I was scared. But I'm giving myself up to the Lord, knowing that I was dying. And at that moment, I had a really horrific thing happen. Just this hissing, satanic, demonic voice whispered, didn't whisper, hissed these words in my left ear. And I'm not even going to try to make it sound the way that it sounded, because it is so demonic and so awful. I don't think I could create that. This being hissed in my ear, "You're not going to heaven. What makes you think you're going to heaven? You're going to hell." And it so scared me and so startled me, because from the time that I was a teenager, from when I was at Auburn Academy and I gave my heart to the Lord, I'd always known I was going to heaven. And it had never even occurred to me that I wouldn't go to heaven. So the thought that maybe that was wrong scared the living daylights out of me. And it was very terrifying. And suddenly I realized I'm going, this is Satan doing this to me. How much he hates me. How dare he do this to me in this moment of my vulnerability as I'm giving myself up to die. How dare he do that? And I got mad with what little strength I had. And I just said, get thee behind me, Satan. And at that moment, I was able to see around me. It was around the head of my bed. There were these golden beings. And the only way I can describe them, they were completely gold in armor, head to toe. And they were not guardian angels, they were guard angels. I had guard angels around my bed, probably about 8 of them. They did not look at me. They looked straight ahead. I mean, it was like God sent in the Marines. He sent in the special forces. And these angels were just surrounding my bed. And I can't tell you how long they were there because I would see them every once in a while. But for the most part, what I feel like God opened up the curtain from this to the spiritual world that we are surrounded in. I got to hear that horrible demonic part of the spiritual world, which I do not want to hear again. But God also allowed me to see how he was protecting me. And in that moment, knowing that I was still surrounded, but that I was maybe going, I just said, Lord, if this is my time, I'm ready to go. I know, though, that you put the breath of life into Adam and Eve when you created them. I know when you created me, you put the breath of life in me. And I know that if it's your will that I am to live, you can put the breath of life back into my lungs. And that sweet, small voice, this was not the same as the hissing voice that was practically screaming these hissing words in my ear. This was God's sweet voice said, sing. Now, ever since I left Auburn, I've been a singer. I was always a singer with my family, but I was kind of too shy to sing at Auburn. But I've been on worship teams many times, and singing has been a really big part of my life. And God said, sing. Well, I didn't even have a voice to talk, let alone sing. But I started singing Amazing Grace. And I'm sure in the beginning, I'm sure it sounded like, amazing. I think that's about all I could probably croak out. But I started singing, and the doctors kind of looked at me, and I thought, well, I don't know what they think, but I'm going to do what God tells me to do. And I just kept singing. I sang Amazing Grace. I sang, just every single praise song I could think of. And I noticed that the doctors were looking at my monitor. And so at some point I stopped, and they said, oh, don't stop. What you're doing is working. You keep doing that. So I kept on singing. And after about an hour, I think they had gone out for a little bit, but after about an hour, they came back and they said, my doctor said, I don't know if it was they, but my doctor said, we don't need to visit the ventilator today. Your numbers have come up and you are doing really well, but keep on singing. That seems to be working for you. And of course, if you think about it, your diaphragm and everything that it takes to sing. So every day when I was in the hospital, I would sing. I would sing for about 3 hours every day. And the nurses would come in and just say, we just love hearing you sing. We've never had anybody sing in ICU. And anyway, and bit by bit, my numbers, saturation numbers got better and better. And a few days after that, I was released from the hospital. There is nothing special about me that God should save me and show me these things. God did show me these things, but when the curtain is pulled back like this on the spiritual world, I do believe that God gives us a commission to tell his story. He wants us to know. We are surrounded by these spiritual forces all the time. We just can't see them. So I think we think they're not there, but they are. And I got to see them. And if I don't tell this story, I'm just like, in our little song about this little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine, hold it under a bushel. No. Well, if I don't tell the story, I'm like holding it under a bushel. So I am going to tell the story because God wants us in heaven. He wants us in heaven with him. And I want as many of you to be there in heaven as well. Fast forward about 2 weeks. My first time in church, our praise team starts singing a song. Now, first I'm going to read you something. I've got to pull it up here on my iPad. But I had Psalm 139 on my refrigerator for probably the last 2 years. Just, it really speaks to me. And it says, "You have searched me, O Lord, and you know me. You know when I sit and when I rise. You perceive my thoughts from afar. You discern my going out and my lying down. You are familiar with all my ways. Before a word is on my tongue, you, Lord, know it completely. You hem me in behind and before, and you lay your hand on me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me, too lofty for me to attain." Well, our praise team started singing a song, "Whom Shall I Fear?" And one of the things it says, "I know who goes before me, I know who stays behind." That is from Psalm 139. And then it said, that song says, and it's by Chris Tomlin, "The God of angel armies is always by my side." And I was suddenly a blubbering mess. I was just weeping because I'm going, that was the God, that was the angel army, he said. The God of angel armies is always by my side. And he sent his angel army for me. He'll send his angel army for you. You are surrounded as well. But it just so hit me, and I'd sung that song so many times. So my message to all of you is, don't think that this world is all there is, because there's not, and it would be that's a pretty poor choice. And I just want you to all have a wonderful reunion weekend, and I hope to see you all in heaven someday. God bless.